Are you ready, yo?
Like your radio, we need you to tune in.
At that point, he instructed me to take off my pants, and he touched my private area again, but this time was nothing covering it. And he put his mouth on to my private area, and then he had me to do the same thing to him. You're thinking to yourself, well, what was it about me that made him think that that was okay to do that to me? You become somewhat the victim to the situation that you didn't ask for, but you feel like you had something to do with the violation actually happening to you. And so I had to question even my sexuality. You know, what was it? What did I do? Did I give off something? And do I have that? You know what? You go through a multiplicity of things in your mind, and it takes you to a place where you begin to start, I want to say you start to abuse your own self mentally, because, you know, well, I'm not good enough, or why would he do that? What was it about me? You know, I never thought like, why did God let this happen to me? I wasn't, you know, on that side, but I really had to struggle mentally with my sexuality and trying to figure out, you know, wow, does this mean that I'm gay because this man touched me and I didn't say anything about it? When I was 20, I got into not my first real relationship, but the first relationship I had sex in. 20 years old, a girl I thought was gorgeous, was cute, but I always wanted to have sex. I always wanted to have this experience. Now I was the virgin, and she wasn't. And so I was, you know, in my sexual peak, always wanted to do it, and not realizing that I had developed an addiction, not only to pornography, but also to a hypersexual relationship in my relationship that really was not healthy. Um, and maybe, you know, other guys were having sex and all that kind of stuff. That I started late, so maybe from 17 to 20, all that had built up, and I was just ready to go for broke. But now, looking back on my understanding of my sexual experiences when I was younger, it shows me, wow, what would have happened if I wasn't exposed to that as early? Who might I have be? Who might I be? Excuse me. Um, if I hadn't experienced it, and where would I be in my personal and private life, as it relates to relationships? I mean, me being exposed to that sexual experience at such an early age, and, you know, just growing up, and then, you know, my dad showing me Skinemax and that kind of thing. I developed, what I would have not called then, but I do know now, it was an addiction to pornography, and so I would sneak and watch stuff on, you know, Pornhub. Saints know about that. X, nxx.com, all those little stuff. And I would sit there and I would watch that mess. And the reason why I say it was mess is because I didn't know I was ingesting more of that filth into my spirit, which heightened my hunger for watching pornography and seeing this and seeing that, which also became an issue in my relationship, with my girlfriend, because now what I was seeing on pornography, I wanted to now do it. Um, and we understand now as adults that pornography is, it's not real, it's fantasy, and you shouldn't want to have those kind of experiences with a person that you love and that you're married to, because those are not authentic, real feelings of affection and love. And what I thought love was and what I thought sex and affection was, it really wasn't, because I only wanted to get my knockers off. And that's why I really do understand, why we do preach not to have sex before you're married, because you also ingest different spirits and characteristics from the people that you experience sexual encounters with, and those soul ties that you even create, not only physically but also mentally. And watching pornography, you don't realize too, you actually get soul ties to that stuff too, because now it's like I can't survive if I'm not watching it. And you can sit somewhere and say, I'm gonna watch it for 5 minutes, and you look up and 2.5 hours have gone past, and it feel like 2.5 minutes, because you lose yourself in that world. And I mean, it's difficult to overcome, but I really overcame after I got married. And it was an addiction, and it was a problem that I had to talk to my wife about, because I didn't want that to be something that became an issue in our marriage. I didn't want that to become something that um, would tear us apart. But I did not have self control. I didn't have self control. But I'm thankful that I had a wife, and I have a wife who loved me knowing and loved me through my process of getting better and being open enough to talk about it with her. One thing I discovered is I covered my trauma with being humorous, and so laughing all the time, being the loudest person, all that kind of stuff, because I always kind of wanted to deflect from my uneasiness and my pain that I experienced because of that happened to me. And so, the only people who knew was my wife, uh, my mother. I never told my dad, but my father's gonna find out now. My brothers are gonna find out. But I didn't want to hold this in, because maybe it might be somebody who has experienced this as well and has not gotten to the place where they could talk about it or be delivered from the trauma that they experienced, and even forgiving the person who did it to them. Because some people had certain situations that were more drastic than mine, but there's still a level of trauma that we experience that somewhat not only shaped who we are, but also limited us to who we could have become. Who I am now is a product of who I become, what I came from, and now who I am becoming. It kind of shows you a perspective of why so many people are going through so much, because a lot of people are dealing with instances that have traumatized them, and they don't know how to talk about it. They don't know who to talk about it to. They don't know how to kind of understand why it happened, why them. And so you have people who have been molested, like myself, and even more sexually abused than myself, who have killed themselves, who are now predators themselves, because they didn't have an outlet to talk about what it is that they have experienced. And I think that a lot of the stuff that we see, the crime, the shootings, the homicides, all the stuff that we're seeing, is because there are so many people that are dealing with dark secrets of them being victims of situations that they feel as if they are the cause of. That it was important for me to talk about my situation that happened to me, because I want to be able to show people that you don't have to become a statistic of your issue or of the situation that happened to you. You can grow from it, you can move on from it, and you don't have to let that trauma stop you. And most people have never known that this happened to me, but I felt like this was an opportunity afforded to me by, my friend and my brother, to allow me to be a voice to persons who feel like they have no voice, who might still be somewhat in a place of despair and hurt by what they experience. but you don't have to stay there. You can grow from it, and you can experience a freshness and a newness of life without the sting of the trauma that you experience. So you can grow from it, you can move on from it, and you can be healed from it. A lot of people are not healed from it spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, but you can be healed from it, all those three areas, and move forward so you can help other people who might have experienced that, to help in their process of deliverance while you become everything God wants you to become.
An historic church went up in flames after a lightning strike set off a 5-alarm fire.
Because they thought it was ironic that, the church is in debt and the fire then comes, which also brings insurance money. How could that happen like that without being orchestrated? Yes, they thought I set the church on fire.
Fire, fire, this city's on fire, fire. This city's on fire, fire, fire.